We are also live on YouTube and LinkedIn. Great. And we have more viewers joining us from all over the world today. A very, very warm welcome to everyone once again. Okay, let me quickly read some introductions. Hi, there's someone joining us from Ghana. Great. From Malawi. Amazing, amazing. Hi, Jaspal. Hello, Suyuk. Hi, Aditya. Hi, Rohan. Hi, Renaud. Amazing, amazing. Someone from Cameroon. Great. Okay. So let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Ananya and I'm going to host this webinar on behalf of Simplilearn. This session is brought to you in partnership with ISACA, one of the most respected names in cybersecurity and IT governance globally. Like I mentioned, this is going to be genuinely a valuable 1 hour, so I'm glad that everyone here has carved out the time. Before we dive in, let me quickly run through a few ground rules. If you have questions, and we really hope you do, please drop them in the Q&A box. It is a separate feature from the chat box. The chat is for conversation, so keep those related to what we are discussing. And at the end of the session, we will launch a poll. Please make sure that you enter your full name there to get your attendance certificate for the webinar. Okay? Great. All right. So I will start the session with a quick introduction to the organization instrumental in today's session, which is ISACA. ISACA is truly a global institution, 55 plus years of advancing digital trust, 185,000 plus members across 190 countries, 230 chapters worldwide. So this isn't like, any normal community. This is the community for cybersecurity and IT governance professionals globally. And I'm sure that our expert here would add a lot more details about ISACA in the coming slides. So I'll move on to introducing Simplilearn for those of you who might be here for the first time. Simplilearn has been in the business of transforming careers through digital skills. 15 million plus careers advanced, learners across 150 plus countries, and 50 plus global partnerships, including this one with ISACA. We genuinely believe that the right learning delivered the right way changes careers and changes trajectories. And that's what today's webinar is also all about. I see that introductions are still coming. Great. Please do keep up the energy high throughout the session. And yes, moving on. Speaking of partnerships, you'll see some incredible names on this slide. AWS, IBM, Google, Microsoft. These are institutions and companies and universities that have trusted Simplilearn to co-create and deliver world-class programs. And when we say we have cutting-edge curriculum, this ecosystem of partnership we have built is what backs that claim. And the numbers do speak for themselves. 50% average salary hike, 4.8 out of 5 learner rating, and 80% graduation rate. The curriculum is built with top universities and companies, like I mentioned previously. It is taught live by practitioners and not just academicians. It is grounded in real world use cases and challenges and pain points. And this is learning designed to move your career forward. Okay, so that brings us to talk about what we're covering today. We'll start with the reality of cybersecurity leadership, why most practitioners hit a wall. Then our expert will walk us through the mindset shift you need, what the modern CISO actually looks like, how to build executive presence, and the milestones on the path to the C-suite. And we'll close with a deep look at CISM and CISA, the certifications that genuinely open doors at the leadership level. So it's a pretty packed session, and yeah, we'll get into it right away without any further ado. Okay, so I could not be more excited to introduce our speaker today. Christopher Demale is the Vice President of Global Accredited Partners at ISACA and the CMMI Institute. Since 2020, the channel business has grown over 1000% under his leadership. And if that doesn't tell you something about what he brings to the table, his background at Blue Rock Capital Markets, Morningstar, JP Morgan, and Deutsche Bank will. He's a CFA charter holder, holds an MBA with distinction from DePaul University, and brings a rare combination of financial acumen and cybersecurity leadership expertise. Chris, welcome. We're so glad to have you here. I think at this point, I believe everyone would love to hear from you. So over to you.
Thank you, Ananya. Much appreciated. Great to meet everyone and excited for this conversation. As mentioned on this slide, I live in the US in Chicago, but wherever you are around the world, ISACA is ready to engage with you with all of our chapters. And certainly I have a great love for India, and having visited numerous times and looking forward to each and every one of those visits. If you're already an ISACA member, we welcome you back and invite you into this conversation. If you're new to ISACA, that's great as well. We're continuing to expand and look forward to sharing with you some of the insights that we bring to you from our global community.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Chris. So we'll get right into the first segment. So before we discuss about the frameworks and the roadmaps and all of those in detail, I want to start at the very beginning of what a lot of people in cybersecurity may be feeling, but they probably haven't named it yet. There's this gap, right, between being really good at your craft and actually moving up into leadership. So let's talk about that a little to begin the session with. The numbers that we have here are quite striking. Only 3% of practitioners make it to the C-suite. 65% of security professionals say leadership skills are their number one career barrier. So, Chris, in your experience, what do you think is the biggest challenge holding technically strong cybersecurity professionals back from leadership roles?
Yeah, thank you, Ananya. Well, I don't think anyone can possibly dispute that we were in a time of major changes from a job market standpoint, right? And one thing that I would challenge everyone to consider about your professional career is that the things that have gotten you to this point are not necessarily the things that will take you to the next step in your career. That is the big challenge that many practitioners fail to understand. And that is the reason why we have this extremely potent number. Only 3% of those folks make it to the C-suite, as you've said, Ananya, right? What is the gap? Why is it that we can't overcome that, right? And one of the big reasons why is that we are simultaneously seeing this thing that I would call the jobs paradox, right? We have seen some of the great companies that even have been mentioned so far, right? AWS, Microsoft, Cisco, plenty of others, right? We are seeing them actually experiencing some significant layoffs. And at the same token, we are seeing all these jobs that are being created and a huge demand with skills that are not being met by the marketplace. How do you explain that, right? Well, the reason why is that the things that employers are looking for are actively shifting in this moment. And it's not enough to just be an excellent technical practitioner, which each and every one of you are, right? But now we're seeing that AI and other disruptive technologies are putting us in a position where you cannot be just that expert. You need to know how to manage it. You need to understand what the capabilities of these new tools are so that you can be ready for what's required at the next steps, right? So a lot of the information that we're getting from ISACA, and let me just give you a moment to understand that where we pull this information from is active market conversations from corporates, from governments, from academia. And what we're observing out there in the marketplace is that the biggest gap that's required for those cybersecurity practitioners is that they need to understand how to manage the current set of tools that is required in this new space to manage the jobs paradox that we are all experiencing in this moment.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris, for answering that question. I really like how you put it. The skills that got you so far doesn't always get you further. And with that as the context, we have a diagram here representing a typical career pathway or a roadmap that cyber professionals typically take. So if you see closely, many professionals seem to plateau at that, director of security level, right? So what's actually happening at these stages, Chris? Is it a mindset issue, or is it a visibility issue, or something else? Why does it get harder to climb the ladder?
Sure. Ananya, everybody's working harder. More productivity is being demanded out of all of us. The job market is getting more competitive, right? And this jobs paradox, this shift in demand, means that simultaneously a lot of people are becoming available on the job market. And the job market is not being satisfied with the required skills for the things that are out there today, right? So that is where we are bumping into a lot of this same focus, where we're working harder, right? We need to meet productivity demands. In fact, many of us are actually competing with AI type of skills. And, maybe it's an old adage, right? But we're all hearing the fact that if you don't know AI right now, then you're at extreme risk of having your job being eliminated by AI. If you don't believe that you need to know I hate to break it to you, but you do, right? And that's what the differentiators are between those that can carry out effectively the technical requirements of what their job is today and the higher level requirements to continue up this pyramid. It's not enough to just be an expert with your fingers on the keyboard. You need to be capable of thinking strategically about what your organization needs, reacting to the legislative environment, right? In India, the DPDP Act has had a massive impact on cybersecurity and will continue to do so as there are additional needs that need to be met by every organization that's operating in the space, right? And that's just one country, one act, right? But we're seeing this globally taking place. So it's not enough to just be good on the keyboard. You need to know how to design and you need to know how to use the tools that are available in today's market.
Perfect. And we'll deep dive into all that is required, on the pathway to the C-suite. And yes, so you've touched upon something that I think a lot of people in this room have, either lived through or are living through right now, Chris. And I want to just sit with it for a second before we move forward. There's this deeply held belief in any industry that if you are technically excellent, the rest will follow. That if you just get better at what you do, the promotions, the visibility, the leadership opportunities, they'll just come. And honestly, it makes sense for people to believe that, because for the first few years of a career, that's actually true. You get better, you get recognized, you move up the ladder. But somewhere around the mid-career mark, and Chris, I think you alluded to this, the rules of the game quietly change. There are a lot of changes that come up. The skills that got you here are not the same skills that get you further. And organizations aren't looking for the most technically gifted person to lead. They're looking for someone who can communicate risk, who can build trust across functions and connect what security does to what the business cares about. So that's the myth that we're busting today in this session. And what's coming up next is really the heart of the webinar, because Chris is going to walk us through what that shift actually looks like in practice, the difference between how a practitioner thinks and how a leader thinks. And once you see it, well, I don't think you can unsee it. So, Chris, let's get into this mindset shift a little bit in detail. How do you exactly go from being a cybersecurity practitioner to a cybersecurity leader? Is this shift something professionals can and should consciously work on, or does it just happen more naturally with experience?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question, Ananya. And I apologize for those of you that might be feeling a little bit of disquiet in your stomach now as you're thinking about this and you're saying, well, this is me. This is who I am. This is how I define myself in my career as a technical expert. And kudos to you for doing that. That's important. There's no substitute for that capability. But now the challenge is real because technical expertise is cheaper and more accessible than it ever has been before because of these new tools that have entered into the market, right? And so, as you can see here on the page, right, what we have is these success metrics, right? So, as you're thinking about your day to day, what's consuming the hours of work that you're putting in week by week, month by month, right? You may be looking at how do I identify specific vulnerabilities? But what we've seen now is Claude Mythos and other types of AI-based tools that are now identifying vulnerabilities at rates that cannot be matched by any human, right? These tools are essential for us to understand. It will, in the very near future, we are going to see AI versus AI. AI are the attackers, AI are the defenders, right? And if you're not experiencing that already today, it is coming, right? Those leaders are the ones that need to know how to reduce these overall risks in a systematic way, not just identifying the specifics, but being able to fully engage with the tools that now exist in today's market, right? When you think about what your daily focus is around this technical decision making, right? Now it needs to be around making decisions around your people, right? As difficult as it is to delegate, as challenging as it is to let go and let others take over their roles, not only do we have to do that with our people, but we also have to do that with the tools that have capability like no one has ever seen before, right? When it comes to communication, right? We can't just be communicating within our teams, right? We need to know the language of the executive and the C-suite and the board. And that is not a simple thing to bridge, right? We may be communicating up to executives that don't have the technical expertise that everyone on this call has. Their expertise are in other areas. That's what their level is, right? And so how do we create a common language, a common understanding in a way that is simple, that is clean, that can be communicated across different understanding levels for the C-suite, right? That is where our mindset needs to shift. We're also seeing from a stakeholder management scenario, right? Where in the past we may be looking to our team and considering what it is, what are their needs and how do those get fulfilled, right? For those that are experts in cybersecurity, right? Great. You're able to do that effectively. You're able to manage your team. But now you need to be the steward of your team by being able to communicate that externally, not just internally within the folks that are already there, right? And then as we think about decision making, right? So what are the decisions that got us here, right? Making effective decisions about efficiently carrying out our work, the things that we're assigned to do. Fantastic. But now we need to think about decision support at the executive level. What is it that's required in order to build better systems, right? In order to comply with the required legislation that applies to us, right? How do we address the risks and how do we consider the enormous amount of zero-day risks that are headed straight for us? And then finally, from a business impact standpoint, right? Today, you may be thinking about how do I improve my systems? How do I improve the things that, the tools that I currently touch, right? But the development of new tools is rapid, right? So, what we've been observing, and you can see it from ChatGPT, you can see it from Anthropic, you can see it from many of the world's leading producers of AI content, and the AI is actually writing its own code at this point. So you may be an expert in writing code, but how can any of us keep up with a tool that can write itself? We need to understand those tools, understand how the game has changed. The systems are different, and we need to be there for it.
Great. Uh, I think, Chris, you perfectly laid out the comparison and the shift that is required, essential for everyone to make. And the last point that you made about AI, I think, it's worth talking about a little bit more because we also have a question from our audience related to that. So I'm gonna pick that up right now, Chris, if that's okay.
Sure.
You want to say that AI is more prone to make security vulnerable rather to resolve problems?
Well, this is an extremely good question, and I think nobody can possibly know the answer in this moment, right? AI is a tool that can be used for good or for evil, right? And everybody on this call is a force for good, right? But we need to understand that there's a lot of incentive for evil as well, right? There's incentive for people to access financial records, access many different ways in order to create new vulnerabilities, right? So, in at this moment in time, right, it's very difficult to say, right? I would say that any tool that becomes available to human, right, Go back to the first tool, fire, right? Well, fire can keep people warm, but it can also destroy, right? And AI is just the same way. It's the newest tool that mankind has at its disposal. And this community here, will be the ones that determine whether ultimately it is possible to use this for good or for evil or both.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. And to our audiences here, please do keep the questions coming. We see that some questions have already come our way, but yeah, please do keep filling the Q&A box with questions, and we will be taking them towards the end of this session. Great. Okay, so back to the slides, Chris, moving on. Okay, so this is what essentially we're building towards in this session, right? A lot of them in their career would want to lead towards lead their career towards the CISO role. So the seat at the table where security stops being just a department and becomes a business function. So looking at this slide, it's striking to see how many directions a CISO is pulling in all at once. So Chris, can you take us through everything a modern CISO is expected to own and how an up and coming professional can prepare themselves for it?
Yeah, thanks, Ananya. So the six different dimensions of a CISO's demand that are on this slide are extremely important. And I would challenge each person listening to think about, do you have expertise in all six of these different domains, right? That is what will prepare you for that next step up, right? Around both, of course, from a risk standpoint, we talked about the dimensions of new risks that are being created every day, right? Financially, we must make sure that these make sense. Are we getting the ROI? Are we communicating that in the way that the executive team needs to hear it, right? What is the technology that's available to us? One very hot topic that I've been hearing a lot about is this concept of shadow AI, right? So that the technology for any individual person on this call, if you have a project that you need to do at work, you can use AI to do it. And hopefully you're using company sanctioned, internally secure AI. But there's a lot of temptation to use something else, right? There's a lot of access to use something else. For a fairly reasonable fee, you can go online and you can purchase access, you can purchase AI tokens and use them to solve your problem at work today. And what happens with that technology? Once you've queried it, what then moves along from that query, right? All someone needs to do to know what you're most concerned about is to get access to that data set. I'm not saying it's easy, but what's happening is it's creating new vulnerabilities about the things that are most important to you and the business problems that you're addressing. In the fourth area, compliance. So we see, I've mentioned DPDP already, but you can also look to GDPR and a host of other regulations that are happening around the world. And I will say that every government that I speak to, right, which represents all continents and most of the major countries that you can think of off the top of your head, right, they're all trying to figure out the right way to regulate AI. We've even seen CEOs of AI leading companies that have said we need to take a break on AI development. We've seen over in the US, Project Glasswing, a halting of public availability of certain types of AI tools as we try and figure out the regulation that's going to make sense, right? And the regulation that works today may not be the regulation that works 6 months from now. We all know the rise of agentic AI, which has redefined AI in this moment, and that didn't exist 18 months ago, right? Or at least it was extremely cutting edge, right? Um, Item number five, from an operations standpoint, operations is changing, right? Well, we're seeing a rate of that operational change that we've never seen before, right? Because now people can do more with less. And again, this ties back into the jobs paradox that we're seeing. And finally, how to manage the board. How to manage the board and executives. This is never easy at any organization, right? To understand what is their primary concerns and how can you address them in a way that they can digest. These six dimensions are the key demand at the CISO level.
Great. Thank you so much for drawing that overview. And I will move on to the next segment now because we've talked about the mindset. Now let's talk about the practical side of showing up as a leader. So, executive presence is one of those phrases that people might use a lot, but I think it means different things to different people. So, Chris, I'd love your take on this. What does this executive presence actually mean to you? Is it something you can build deliberately, and if so, how?
Yeah, absolutely. When you think about executive presence, right, these three aspects are the key components of that dimension, right? So what we see here, uh, confidence, right? And confidence doesn't just come from within, right? Confidence comes from knowing the content cold, right? Understanding what is out there. So building on the technical expertise that you have today, but understanding what is the context, right? How can that be used, right? In addition to being able to communicate that interpersonally, right? We see some talk here around soft skills that are very important, but the soft skills comes from the knowledge, right? So those two things go hand in hand. The second piece is around the clarity. Understand what your objective is, right? Lay out your plan. Understand what it is that the recipient, right? And many times, again, executives and the board understand what their knowledge is, understand how they can digest what it is that you're looking to put in front of them, right? You see here, lead with the headline, right? Too often, we may be presenting in a way that is too technical for our audience, right? I think we've all experienced that, right? Structure your message in advance. Make sure that you've got the right resources applicable when you go into that conversation, and answer the question that's asked. In addition, there's a converse to that, which is hit on those objectives, right? Don't be afraid, objections, that is. Hit on those objections. Don't be afraid to hit on those objections that you can anticipate because you know your audience going into that conversation. And then thirdly, bringing the credibility to the table, right? Where you can back up those opinions with stats, with hard numbers, with data that is an important component of your decision, why you are making the recommendation in the way that you are, and then continuing to nurture your reputation for that type of high quality delivery of content. You can have this opportunity to be the expert for that the organization requires, and these three C's are how you can accomplish that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So we have a question from one of our audiences who's asked for the top three qualities a CISO should have. So maybe I think this slide covers it, but if there's anything else you'd like to add to that question, it would be great. Just
Sure, Nanya. Yeah, it's I would say the essential dimensions fit within these three, right? So confidence, clarity, credibility, and these things all build from your personal awareness. They build from your team. They build from your knowledge. When you have the expertise, let it shine through you, right? I like to say, be like a piece of glass, right? Let it be evident what it is that you're trying to communicate with focus, like a sunbeam shining through glass. If when you can do that effectively, you're ready to take that next step into the C-suite.
perfect, perfect, great. Moving on to, specific domains, actually. So we touched upon stakeholder communication a bit before, and now we can, I think, delve into it a little more in detail. So influencing without authority is genuinely hard, irrespective of the domain. So especially when you're trying to drive a security culture into teams that don't report to you. So what's your go-to approach here? How do you manage all stakeholders from different domain and influence authority?
Sure. It's a very challenging question, Ananya, and one that is worth giving deep consideration to. These are the techniques that I have seen be very successful. First, number one, understand their priorities, right? I believe it's absolutely essential to have the kind of honest communication that we all would like in our personal and professional lives be the beacon of that type of honesty and openness, right? I have found many times when there are conflicts that the best resolution is just being open with each other, right? Be treating every interaction as though, your grandmother or your grandfather was watching you, right? So that, okay, what would I do if they were observing me and they were thinking about what I'm doing here today, right? By being open and honest with your priorities and showing others, modeling for others how they can also be open and honest with their priorities. Those priorities won't always have 100% agreement. They won't have total alignment. That's okay. That's normal, right? But where the places where you do have that kind of alignment, at a minimum, you're able to exchange support for each other's agendas in order to achieve something higher. The second piece is to build those relationships before you need them, right? So invest in people. No one likes to feel as though a relationship is strictly transactional, right? You go to the market, you have something, you need to buy a liter of milk, something of that type. Okay, fine. I'm heading along my day. And this is meant to be a quick transaction. But when you need to rely on people, when you need to trust each other, you need to have that groundwork set. Identify who in the organization are the key influencers that you will need to call on at some point in the future and understand what their priorities are. Get to know their agenda, get to know them as a person, right? Because last time I checked, AI is not yet replacing the human component of our interpersonal interactions, right? And while it does it does claim that it may be able to do some of those things, there is no substitute for that face-to-face interaction that you must have to build up that credibility so that you can utilize those relationships and be a useful relationship for the people that you're encountering in as well. The next component, number three, use data storytelling, right? So what does the data tell you? What is it that you're looking to communicate, and how does the data fit within that story? Sometimes that data can surprise you, right? But we're not saying to create a fictional story using the data, right? All the stories must be true, right? Or you're not going to get what you're looking for. But to use the data in a way that is concise, that is precise, that is not overwhelming to your audience. That's a big challenge and something that is a major part of being effective with that data. And then finally, creating a coalition, not just consensus, but people who will stand behind each other that are not just on this specific decision that are agreeing with you, but who respect and understand the capability that you're bringing to the table every time, that understand your process, right? That are comfortable with maybe sometimes your process can change. Well, what is it that changes your process? What are the things that you look at that are most important to you, so you have the credibility that you're looking for in order to make that next level?
Someone's at the front door doorbell.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think it's great pieces of advice, Chris. I think it would be applicable even for me. So there's a lot to take away from what you just mentioned. Great. So I'll move on to the next slide. Interestingly, in one of our earlier cybersecurity webinars, we had a participant with almost a decade of experience in the field. She mentioned something interesting, and I want to bring that up here to discuss, this topic. Security professionals are often seen as blockers by product and engineering teams. So how do you exactly flip that perception? How do you work with specific domains, of people from specific domains?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big challenge, and there are specific domains that do tend to be let's just say, blocker may be a little bit big of a word, but okay, I'll use that word, right? For IT, right? Things like, is IT being looked at as a cost center, or is it being looked at as a revenue generator, right? What is it that finance requires? What is it that executives require within that space? And I would say the most important component that we saw in the last page, right, is being clear about your agenda asking others to be clear about their agenda so that they can be open and honest about where you have consensus or where you have alignment in order to proceed forward with a plan that will accomplish both of your goals. Nothing will substitute for that.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Chris. And before we move on to the next slide, just allow me to address a couple of questions that have come our way. Um, we have uh, we have about 2 to 3 people asking if this is a live session. So I just want to say that yes, it's live. We are here, presenting all this and answering your question live. So please do feel free to use the Q&A box and drop in your questions, and we will try to pick them up towards the end. Great. Okay. So moving on to the last point in this particular segment. So, broad communication is something a lot of security professionals, board communication is something a lot of security professionals dread. In fact, even out of the cybersecurity industry, it is something that a lot of professionals might be, not very comfortable with. So, what's the most common mistake you see people make when they're presenting to a board or presenting to senior leadership, and what are the best tactics to prepare for it?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. And I would definitely refer to the slide here. I know that we're starting to run a little bit short on time, but this is a great way to set up. And I would say the most common mistake is not understanding the background before coming into that meeting, right? So when you don't understand the background, you may not understand what are the agendas of the people involved, right? Where does the power lay, right? When you know those things, then you can really change up the dialogue and ensure that you are creating champions. This is one thing that a concept that I really love is creating champions, right? When you can really find someone who is ambitious to support your agenda, that your agenda will really benefit for what it is that they're looking to accomplish in the conversation, harness that person. That's the right person to build your coalition with, right? And that may be a group of people. That may be what defines your coalition is those people that share your ethos, that share your mindset, that share a common goal that they want to accomplish. So understanding the background and knowing the things that need to happen in that meeting in order to support the people that support you is the best thing that you can do to improve your outcomes at executive and board level conversations.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Chris. So okay, now we've covered the mindset, the presence, and the communication. I think by now everyone is getting a clearer picture of what it takes to, go up their career ladder. So let's get into the actual path, the concrete milestones, and the things that everyone can start doing right now. So, Chris, can you please take us through the critical milestones on the path to become a CISO? And after this, we can move on to talking about about the certifications.
Absolutely. Right. So as we think about those career milestones, right? So first, we've talked quite a bit about technical credibility, right? You need that in order to get to the next step. Okay, great. But it's not enough, right? Once you've done that, look for those opportunities to lead across functions. Understand how your technical capability makes others' agendas possible, right? Then you need to gain that executive exposure, right? Present for you if you feel presenting is not one of your top strengths, or even if you do, get feedback. Get in front of a trusted group of people to have them hear what's being effective about the way that I'm presenting. How can I improve that? All of us have plenty of opportunity to improve. I certainly look to my team all the time to help getting better, right? So that executive exposure in those presentations, what makes your statements compelling? You need to know that when you go to this next level, right? Build your leadership brand. So as you think about what does your name mean within the organization? What does your brand mean, right? Consider the things that how you want to present yourself, and then consider the things that you need to be doing so that not only are you getting that buy-in from your direct team members, but also from the people that are interacting with you at different levels. And then finally, pursue that C-suite with passion, with ambition. you can achieve that, right? When you've put together the rest of the agenda, when you've put together the rest of the components that we've talked about here today, you need to have the expertise in a provable manner that you can then achieve that C-suite ambition that you have.
Amazing. Thank you for that, Chris. And moving on, I think a lot of people in this room have might be wondering about this. We have a few questions already, and that is about the certification. Specifically, CISA and CISM is what we're going to talk about in this session. So, Chris has been walking us through the leadership journey, and the certifications are a very real part of that. So, let me hand back to Chris before we, get into all the details of how Simplilearn helps you with these certifications. Chris, there are a lot of certifications out there, right? Why do CISM and CISA specifically come up again and again when we talk about the C-suite path?
Yeah, thank you, Ananya. Well, it's about not just having the skills, but being able to prove that you have the skills, right? When you apply for a job, right, and you say, yes, I have the skills that are required. Well, when we're talking about IT, when we're talking about cybersecurity, you can't just prove that on its face, right? And we need more than just the job that we've done in the past, right? Certification gives you that pathway so that when you have a CISA or a CISM, it means the same thing in Delhi as it does in Chicago, as it does in Tokyo, in Beijing, in London, and everywhere else around the world, right? These types of certifications have power and value because they are established and respected by those organizations that are doing the hiring, by those governments that are setting the legislation, and by those academics, I'll say, those academics that are producing the type of content that's required to make this all effective.
Okay, great. And if you can, please break down what CISM and CISA actually tests in cyber professionals and who is it ideal for. So that would be great. And once you complete the pointers on this slide, I will move on to the next one so we can take two slides together. Uh, Chris, you'd have to unmute yourself.
Uh, Sorry, Ananya, can you repeat that? I just had a disturbance at the front door.
Okay. Okay. So I was just asking you if you could break down what CISM and CISA actually tests in cyber professionals and who is it ideal for? Because we have a few questions that have come in, and people want to understand which is the best certification for them. So if you can just give pointers on what it constitutes and what who is it ideal for, that'd be great.
Excellent. So CISM is for the Information Security Manager, right? So for that person who has already demonstrated that they have the technical expertise, but now they need to get into governance, risk, system design, right? And so the CISM is really for that person who is now ready to elevate up to that next place with their career, right? You can see the four domains here. Proud to say that CISM is going through a job practice update in 2026 as we see that AI is having more and more impact. So this is not as much about having your fingers on the keyboard anymore, right? This is about, okay, what does the organization need from me at the next level up? And we can see that CISM has been incorporated into numerous different types of job practices around the world, as well as legislation that supports that when you have a CISM, you are differentiated from other people in the marketplace by showing that you have the skills required for these system management. And so anticipating your question, Ananya, with regard to CISA, right? CISA or CISA, you pronounce it, in Australia they call it the CISAR, right? But pronounce it the way you like, right? But the CISA is the gold standard in IT audit. Having been around for decades, This is highly well established as the certification for IT auditors to demonstrate their expertise. And now it has the additional dimension within it of what are the current tools? How do you perform audits using AI tools? How do you audit AI capability? What I find to be most compelling is to consider that we are all using a wide swath of new tools, right? Just about any product that's being built on the market, someone will tell you, oh, we built this using AI, right? We built this sandwich using AI. It's been optimized for the flavors for human consumption. But how can you use AI tools if you don't understand how to audit them? If you're doing that, you're actually creating an enormous vulnerability for your organization. In some cases, an unprecedented level of vulnerability. Having the CISA ensures that you know how to perform an audit on that type of capability to deliver what is required.
Great, thank you so much. And I think you can also see a lot of questions that have come our way regarding which certification is the best for whom. So we might not be able to, give personalized answer to every single person here. So what we have done is like, sort of built a framework that would help you understand and you assess which would be the right pathway for you. So Chris, if you could also like, explain how to make this decision process and how does it work between choosing between these certifications? That'd be great.
Yeah, thank you, Ananya. Unsurprisingly, this is a question that we get all the time. And here is my response to you, right? There is a Japanese concept called ikigai, right? Which is to say, what can I do? What will people pay me for? And what do I like to do? And finally, what makes the world a better place? When you take those four considerations that are out there, right, you can look at them even more simply to say, what is it that I'd like to do and what is happening in the job market? My recommendation to every person listening is that the thing that you are passionate about is what you will be best at, right? So when you consider cybersecurity, when you consider audit, when you consider risk management, governance topics, things of this type, what is your passion, right? What is the thing of what is the aspect of these business capabilities that inspires you the most? And then pair that together with what are the jobs that are being asked for out there. I would say don't just react to what are the jobs, right? That is an important place that you will end up, right? Understanding the amount of compensation that you can receive, which is very high for many of these cyber jobs. The certifications we've talked about today, the CISA and the CISM, are two of the highest paying certifications in the industry of IT. But it's not enough just to be paid. It's also to understand the long-term impact of your career. What are you passionate about? What are you interested in? And one place to really find out more about that, about what are the jobs that are out there, is the ISACA community. If you're not part of the ISACA community already, there's a great local chapter where you can meet a lot of like-minded individuals, those who are both senior and junior to you, who can help guide you on this pathway to deciding what's going to be most appropriate for you in your next career step.
Okay, thank you so much, Chris. And I think with that, we've taken about 45 minutes to clearly establish why these certifications matter. So let me walk you through how Simplilearn actually helps you prepare for the certification, and we'll start with CISM first. We are an ISACA accredited elite training partner, which means that this isn't just prep material we put together and train you on. It's built to ISACA standards with ISACA accredited instructors as well. So I'll just quickly take you through what sets our system program apart. Like I mentioned, you get ISACA accredited instructors, people who don't just know the exam but have lived this domain. The live classes deliver 8 times higher interaction compared to typical online programs, which matters a lot because this is material that you don't want to just discuss, debate. This is material you don't want to just memorize, but want to discuss, debate, and apply. Right? So we include 3 full sample part papers with 150 questions each. So you get into that exam having already seen the pressure. And you also get 16 CPEs, the ISACA exam kit, an exam voucher, and 24/7 access to recorded content. So this is entirely designed so that nothing is a surprise for you on the exam day. So talking about skills, our training program covers the full system domain: information security governance, risk management, security program development, incident management, security architecture, and a lot more. So if you're wondering whether you're eligible, the general requirement is 5+ years in IT or cybersecurity with at least 3 in a management function. That said, ISACA does offer experience waivers of up to 1 or 2 years for certain qualifications. So if you're, close but not quite there yet, it's still worth exploring. You can discuss this in detail with our program training expert who will get in touch with you soon after the webinar if you're interested. And to sum up, this is built for security managers, directors, aspiring CISOs, and anyone in governance, risk, or compliance who's thinking about moving up the ladder. So investment wise, for Indian learners, the program is available at 1,25,000, which is an exclusively discounted price we're offering you right now. For US learners, it's $1,950, down from $3,000. This includes lifetime access to all content and live class recordings, a flexi pass so you can reschedule your cohort in the first 90 days if your schedule shifts, 24/7 learner support, and 100% money back guarantee. If you want further details, or you would like to speak to an expert, please explore the link in the box that I just shared. So you can click on this link, explore the program a lot more in detail, and schedule a call with our expert as well if required. Okay, so moving on, for those of you whose path leans more towards audit, GRC, or compliance leadership, let me walk you through our CISA training program. The CISA program covers all 5 essential domains, and just like CISM, it's delivered by ISACA-accredited instructors with that same 8 times higher live interaction standard. You get the official ISACA CISA kit, the exam voucher, the review manual, the QAE, so you don't have to source anything separately. The curriculum is very, very current, built with interactive exercises throughout, and there is a simulation test at the end of the program specifically designed to get you exam ready. And I have to reiterate that Simplilearn is an accredited elite training partner of ISACA, which is the highest tier. This credential matters a lot when you're choosing where to prepare. So please do keep that in mind. And our CISA training program covers IS auditing, asset protection, IT governance and management, systems operations and business resilience, acquisition and development, plus risk management, compliance, and communication and reporting. Eligibility requires 5+ years again in IS or IT audit, controls, assurance, or security. Experience waivers may be applicable, but again, you'll have to check if you are eligible with our expert. This program is the right fit for IT auditors, compliance managers, GRC professionals, risk officers, and anyone involved in governance and controls who wants a credential that the C-suite recognizes. So when it comes to the investment for Indian learners, you can enroll at 1,16,000 rupees, which is again down from 1,36,880. The US learners can enroll at $1,950, down from $3,000. We apologize if we're not able to share the investment details in every currency. We know that we have people here from all parts of the world, but that's why I'm sharing the program link in the chat box. So when you open this, according to the country that you're in your currency, the investment details will be visible. So once again, what this investment includes is the Flexi Pass, the live training by top practitioners, and the 100% money back guarantee. Same commitment to your success at the as the system program. And yes, to take your interest in enrolling in the program, in either of the programs, I'm going to launch a quick poll right now. All you have to do is click on yes or no. Even if you are a little unsure, you need more details, you would like to speak to our expert and then decide, please do click on yes. You will be contacted within the next 24 hours by our expert who will guide you further in taking the right decision. And in case you're voting no, please do feel free to let us know in the chat box what is holding you back. We would like to understand your challenges better. So let us know in the chat box. I'm going to keep that poll live for a few minutes. We have about 50 people who have voted already, and we have a lot more participants here. So please do keep those votes coming in. Meanwhile, Chris, I think we can take questions from our audiences right now. Okay, before that, I see someone responding in the chat. Navdeep, thank you so much for responding in the chat, but we would request you to answer in the polls so that you will be contacted by our expert soon. Okay, let me just go to the questions. Okay, what is the scope of CISA professionals in India, Chris? If you have any insights on that, please share.
Yeah, absolutely. Scope of CISA professionals in India. So, uh, ISACA trains about 69,000 people on an average annual basis. That's the number from 2025. Over that time period, uh, India has become the number 2 country in the world for ISACA professionals, and we have over 15,000 members, with about that same number of people that take new certification training in ISACA content every year, right? In addition to that, CISA represents the vast majority in India, right? So we find that CISA is about 80% plus of the total certifications for ISACA. And for us, that is a strong indication of what we all know. India is the labor force of the world, right? And so we have seen that many organizations around the world have come to India for the high skilled people, and for the leadership that we've seen, right? So that no matter what organization we're talking about, you can find that they have an IT team that's based somewhere within the country. Right? So, all those things being considered, the number of people that take CISA in India on an annual basis is over 10,000.
Wow. Amazing. Thank you. And thank you for that question, Nidhi. If you're here, I hope that answered your doubt. Moving on, this is from Rajesh. For someone working in ITGC and internal audit, would you recommend pursuing CISA first or moving directly into other cybersecurity certifications such as security or CISP? How do you see the career path differing over the next 5 years?
Yeah, this is an excellent question. And, which certification is right for you doesn't just apply to the ISACA certifications, but to the broad set of certifications that are out there. And we celebrate these other certifications as mentioned, right? Because if you're getting one of those, chances are you're probably going to get something from ISACA too. If you value education and if you have a desire to move up within your organization, then the more diverse that your profile is, the more effective you will be able to accomplish your goals, right? So, really, it depends on what it is that you're passionate about, right? Right now, the phrase that we're using quite a lot is to future-proof your career, right? Think about the vulnerability of the career that you're in today, and think about the security of the career that it is that you want. What is it you need to close that gap, right? So for many people, if you're thinking, I'm a technical expert, but I need to demonstrate more of those soft skills, well, things that are more around risk or management or compliance are going to serve you really well. Or you may be somebody who is more in that soft skills space. And so you're thinking, I need more of that technical expertise in order to ensure that I know how to use the new tools that are coming out, right? CISP is a great solution for that, right? But we also have some certifications that I would urge you to look at from ISACA that are based in the world of AI, right? So we have designed advanced in AI audit, advanced in AI security management, and advanced in AI risk. Three brand new certifications that have been extremely popular in the marketplace and in India since launch last year. And AAIR, the one around risk, actually just launched earlier this year. So these are whatever it is that you're looking to pursue, determine where you are today to where it is that you want to be and how do you need to cover that gap, right? And then the other thing that I would say is consider what is most being requested by the marketplace, right? Don't get left behind by this jobs paradox. Make sure that you're getting in front of it.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. And I think that answers multiple questions actually, because we had a lot of similar questions around, should I pick CISM or CISP or CISO? I mean, in the career towards CISO. So I want to resolve that as well. Maybe I think the final question that we can take is a pretty interesting one. One second.
Those are the best kind.
Yeah. So if you were starting your cybersecurity career again in 2026 with no degree and only self-learning resources, what roadmap would you personally follow to maximize your chances of a leadership position?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a challenging question. And here's one thing that I would say. There's a sentence in there or clause that I really want to highlight. Only self-learning resources.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing is that no one knows what's happening, what's going to happen in the future. Things are changing rapidly. What I would look to first is to understand the community of what's being asked, right? To prepare yourself for what's going to be happening in the future, right? I happen to have four daughters. My oldest daughter just graduated from university, and she is still determining where her path is going to go, right? And so this is the scenario that you're asking about, right? The first thing to do is to understand what's being requested in the community. When I was, just starting my career, I didn't understand the type of job that I have today. And in many cases, you could say this job wasn't even created at that point, right? Job for cybersecurity definitely did not exist 15 years ago, right? And many of us have careers that have expanded well beyond that time, as well as myself, right? You'll need to network. You'll need to be in the community. You'll need to understand what the leaders are thinking about so that you can start aiming yourself in the way that's going to be most effective for your accomplishment. That is my top recommendation. Learn about what is out there, learn about what is possible, get involved in the community, get involved in an accessible network so you can see the people that came before you, the people that are more senior, the jobs that you aspire to, and see what do I need to do to close the gap between where I am today and where it is that that person is. Credentials, training, certification, this is the best way to do it, right? And so when you talk about self-paced learning, things of that type, those things are great. But the fastest way to gain the skills as effectively as possible is to do it with someone, whether it's in a training class where you're getting that information, whether it's networking from other folks, or whether it's becoming part of a community that then will help to guide your next decisions. That's the best way to determine your path forward from here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Chris. I think with that we can wrap the Q&A segment. And I've gotten a lot of interest to enroll in the program, so I'm going to end that poll as well. And I'm going to launch the next poll to take entries for anyone who requires attendance certificate. And while we have that poll live, Chris, it would be great to have any final remarks from you, any final piece of advice to all the learners out here.
Yeah. Thank you, Nanya. The most important thing is don't get caught up in the jobs paradox. Get yourself ready for what's coming next, which includes new types of tools and AI capabilities that we've never seen before, right? Get involved in the community. You don't have to go it alone, right? Here at ISACA, we pride ourselves not just on establishing these certifications, which have been very valuable. But what's really important is then the ongoing engagement with the world around you that is possible by being part of an organization that can support you. So we believe in you. We want to see you succeed, and we have tools that are not just certifications, but this is also why we have great partners like Simplilearn around the world in order to help you get the skills you need as quickly as possible so that you can be accomplishing your dreams. So that's my hope for each and every listener on today's call. And please don't hesitate. Reach out to the ISACA community, reach out to helpful organizations like Simplilearn that can work with you to achieve something that is tailored to your personal experience and get you where you want to be.
Great, perfect. Thank you so much, Chris. And that's a wrap on today's session. Huge thank you to you, Chris, for bringing such depth and honesty to every part of this conversation. This is exactly the kind of webinars we want to keep bringing to this community. So it was great having you here. Thank you so much. Is there okay? So if you have any okay, so if the audiences have any follow-up questions or any question that has been unanswered, please do write to us at webinars@simplilearn.net. We will be in touch with we'll be in touch with the recording and the next steps. Great. So thank you so much to everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Ananya. See you.